It's your time for Chai with Nanice. Get ready for substance, clarity, change, and especially empowerment. Get ready to turn over stones, uncover stories, and get to the heart of the matter in every area of your life. Any mood runs, any emotion flies, and your dreams are within your grasp. There are no limits or boundaries, and your comfort zone is out of reach, yet it's the safest place you will ever be. Come in, sit down, and have some chai with Nanice.
Welcome to Chai with Nanice. I'm Nanice. When was the last time you thought about compassion? Compassion for yourself and compassion for others. Well, today that's what we're going to be talking about. The compassion itself and how to use compassion to transform your life and transform the world. They say that compassion is the highest form of love, and I believe this to be true. Compassion allows us to go past our self-judgments and judgments of others. It allows us to surrender our wants and desires for others even, and to understand, or at least accept that which we can't understand. Very often I have found that people are simply not compassionate because they feel threatened or powerless. It's interesting because just before the show I was thinking about, well, when have I experienced true compassion in my life and when haven't I? And a better question came along, and do I feel compassion now for people that I didn't feel compassion for in the past? And the answer was absolutely yes. The first one being me. I realized that there are many things from my past that I have judged, and now with greater understanding of life and myself and really my true intentions, I have compassion for those very things and those very actions for my very self who may have done things that, well, I didn't approve of at that time. They call this forgiveness. And it occurs to me that maybe that really is the key to forgiveness. That is compassion. I also thought about a boyfriend that I had when I was 16 and 17 years old. You may have heard me speak about him if you've been listening to the show for a while. And this was a boyfriend that I was in an abusive relationship with. Now notice I have not said that he abused me. We were in an abusive relationship together, and though he did more of the abusing. And it's funny because at the time, I certainly didn't have a lot of compassion for him. I felt and believed, truly believed, that he was doing something horrible and even horrific to me. Poor me, poor me. And even after I got out of it for years, I still believed that something had been done to me. And as I healed and as I gained my own sense of worth, my own sense of intrinsic power, forgiveness happened. But it was more of, well, I was forgiving him. Over the last few years, and particularly the last year, to be perfectly honest, I have a whole new outlook. And that is that if there was not something inside of me that felt, well, for lack of a better way of saying it, deserving to be abused, then no one would have shown up to abuse me. No one. He wouldn't have shown up to abuse me. And so in that respect, not only did he not do anything to me, I'm actually responsible. And when I look at creating this dynamic in my life and having this person who really did love me show up to fulfill that dynamic, to act out this play with me in real life, then suddenly I have an enormous amount of compassion that includes and goes beyond forgiveness. That I can look back on him and the situation and myself and just feel intense and deep love for who I was, for who he was, and for every moment that transpired and everything that I have learned and who I have grown to be. And so instead of looking back and thinking I should have or I shouldn't have or he shouldn't have or he should have, instead I can just look back with love. And I believe that's the real freedom. That when we hold ourselves to certain thoughts, standards, and beliefs, that very often we miss greater gifts. We miss what's truly at the core of all, and that's love. Yeah, that's love. If you haven't found love in a situation or a person, that means you simply haven't looked deep enough yet. Now, this doesn't mean that you should stay in an abusive relationship. Of course not. For if you love yourself and even love the other person, why would you stay? There's no reason to stay. It's just giving you an opportunity to find your love and your worth. Yes. Yes. But when you look deep enough, really look deep enough at anyone or anything, you can find love. Because you see, love is the only thing that's real. And if love is the only thing that's real, then everything else is just layered upon it. So today I'm very excited about exploring this conversation of compassion, of the compassionate self, and unlocking the secrets of compassion for your own personal transformation and for world transformation. My guest today joining me, having chai with me, is my beautiful friend Neal Ryder. Neal is a gifted intuitive healer who has dedicated his entire life and training to bring forth the divine radiance of his clients. I love that radiance, divine radiance, not as a concept, but as a state of being, which infuses his clients with healing, wholeness, and celebration. Neal is also an author, and his website, which is radianthealing.com, offers a blog, free newsletter, articles, workshops, intensives, and a wide variety of programs and internet radio shows, all drawn from the information contained in his forthcoming book, Living a Radiant Life, a compassionate compass to unity and wholeness. And at the end of the show, Neal's also going to tell you about an author's contest that he's in and how you can participate in helping him become that next great author. So without further ado, Neal, welcome to Chai with Nanice, and thank you for having chai with me today.
Thank you for the opportunity for having chai with you today, Nanice. Mm-hmm. It's wonderful to talk with you.
Thank you. Thank you. We had a wonderful conversation a few days ago, and after I got off the phone with you, I was just overflowing with this beautiful love that I felt coming through my cell phone. And was really looking forward to today. And so, what would you say is the most important thing you have discovered about compassion?
I believe the most important thing is that compassion is a lifestyle. It's not necessarily a practice, because that kind of separates the spiritual and the physical. It's a lifestyle that's eminently practical and applicable in all the various ways that can be experienced as a lifestyle. Mm-hmm. I'd say that would be the most important thing I found.
Wow, that's very profound. What's the difference between a lifestyle and a practice?
Well, I think that sometimes people mistake a spiritual practice or a spiritual path as something that is separate from our physical life. Mm-hmm. And therefore separate from different people within their lives who may or may not hold those beliefs. Mm-hmm. And yet I believe, in truth, compassion allows you to live a lifestyle that integrates both the spiritual and the physical.
Mm-hmm. That's beautiful.
I believe it opens a doorway for the knowledge of heaven and earth. And, and it's very pragmatic. It isn't necessarily all about quantum energies or meditation. It's application. Mm-hmm. It's living it. It's making the effort to be active in the pursuit of a lifestyle that reflects compassion in the choices that we make and the practices that we participate in. Mm-hmm. And I believe it allows us to heal from all the determinants that we might have as we were growing up as children, mm-hmm. cultural, physical, economic, politically, the environments that we experienced, mm-hmm. and allows a way through that.
So do you mean, similar to what I was speaking about in the beginning of the show, that when we can look back and see things through the eyes of compassion, that it heals what Absolutely. We believed was the past?
Mm-hmm. Absolutely heals. It heals everything.
Mm-hmm.
It allows us to heal the emotions, the physical, the spiritual, and the soul issues mm-hmm. that we've all experienced. Living a physical existence, a life is tough. It's only for the courageous.
Yes.
It really is. It's only for the courageous, because it's really the only time that we are invested in a belief that we're separate from everything mm-hmm. else. And that's a pretty scary place to be.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So how do you get to compassion? I'm sure there's a lot of people listening and they're like, well, that sounds really great, but, I went through this awful childhood or marriage or, whatnot, and I don't know how to get there. I want to feel compassion. I was doing a class the other day for my students, and we were talking about unconditional love, and one of my beautiful students said, I hear you speak about unconditional love, Nanice, and I want so much to experience that, but I haven't been able to get there all the time, and it's more of a thought, like I'm trying to have it rather than really experience it. So how do you, and I'm assuming that, that compassion is very connected to that unconditional love. Would you agree with that, Neal?
Yeah, it's simply another way of expressing it. Absolutely.
Yeah. Yeah.
And
so how do you
get there?
Yes.
Sorry.
No, go ahead.
Because I believe we live in unity, even within the physical. Unity is a reality, so it doesn't matter where you begin, and the beginning point is going to be different for everyone. So when I talk about compassion with people, some people are looking to heal their hearts, so they begin there. There are other people looking to, well, then how do I make choices? How do I recognize what's a good choice and what's a bad choice? But there's a way to make compassionate choices. There's a way to see other people differently, to see yourself differently. There's a way that compassion allows you to accept, forgive, and love yourself in ways that heal the past and free you from that past being projected off into the future. It's a way of, some people are drawn to it because they like the idea of having compassionate conversations, or they like the idea that compassion can actually inform our understanding. And there are other people who are drawn to the energetic expressions of compassion, or as compassion as a way to heal emotions, or we all hear about right behavior, but right thinking is a little more difficult. Like, how do I change my thoughts? Well, compassion offers a way to do that. Compassion offers a way to not only address limiting beliefs, but to transform them. Compassion offers a way for those people seeking a deeper level of guidance. Compassion offers a pathway to that as well. And you simply begin where you want to begin. And you begin working with compassion as an experience, as an energy, as belief, as choice. And you do the best, and you maintain an attachment to your effort. In the end, it's our effort that makes the difference.
Which is intention. Yes.
The healing is a grace. Compassion evokes that from the universe.
So by putting effort towards compassion, you're saying that there is a divine force that looks down upon us and maybe reflects that compassion back to us.
It looks out from us.
Looks out from us. Yeah. Yeah. It's beautiful.
And as soon as we make efforts, any one effort will change a person's life. And what I mean by that is, let's just take an example of forgiveness.
Yes.
Okay? Sometimes non-forgiveness is attached to emotions like anger or beliefs around judgment. And yet, if you go through the effort and the modalities and the practices that are available, then what happens is you'll never experience that anger or non-forgiveness at the same level that you are at this moment prior to doing the practices. And then it's a case of layering that effort. That's why the effort is emphasized. Forget the results. The universe will take care of the results. Maintain your effort. Maintain your practice. And layer by layer, you begin to change. And depending upon where you begin, sometimes that change happens in a few weeks, and in other areas it happens a little more, but you can always go deeper. You can always expand more.
So,
it really
Neal,
depends upon the person.
Yeah. So, are you saying that it starts out as an intention? So I'm intending to have compassion for, my mother or my neighbor or whoever I'm having a challenge with, and simply my intention for compassion will start loosening my thoughts and my feelings and my beliefs. And
if it's consistently held, yes, and expressed whenever that comes up. But
yes,
that intention, it goes is closely aligned with choice. In choices, I don't think people realize that with any given choice, I mean, we're familiar with the phrase, all choices have consequences. But the consequences of a choice for us, if we distilled all of our choices down and we really spent some time thinking about it and contemplating it and twisting it around in our head, we'd see that when we distill it, a choice can either be based upon do no harm or upon personal gain. And that's
so compassionate choices. So it's like, again, same example. So I'm having a problem with my neighbor, and I could get revenge, or I could, as they would say, turn the other cheek. And so I ask myself, what is the most compassionate choice? And the most compassionate choice would be, well, at least to turn my cheek, and the most compassionate choice beyond that might be to go open-hearted to them and apologize for my part in whatever that challenge was. Is that kind of what you're saying?
Compassion would give you the clarity. Compassion would eventually give you the clarity to set a healthy boundary and not allow that to happen. Not so much a turn the cheek,
yes,
but as this is not allowed. And should that continue, then there are other choices I'll have to make, which I prefer not to make, but which are compassionate towards me. I believe compassion begins with ourselves.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
We're the last ones on the list, always. And to develop that compassion, it's you accept yourself, you forgive yourself, and then you allow yourself to be compassionate with yourself, which you allow that energy to flow into that space you've just created energetically.
Right. It's beautiful. It's beautiful. It's interesting because I didn't realize how timely this conversation was for me personally until just this minute. So the universe kind of surprised me there. So recently, a very dear friend and I had a difference of, the way we saw things. And, we both thought each other was wrong. And, of course, I thought my story was right, and I'm sure she thought her story was right, and they were very different stories. And I sat in that for a little while, and I actually initially made a choice that I believed was most compassionate for myself and felt actually good about that choice. And as I sat with that for a while, even weeks, couple of weeks at least, something began to shift and change, and suddenly I couldn't even remember my story. Like my story just completely, it disappeared. Like I would have to what was that? What was it that hurt me so much? What was I so bothered about? And I had to retrieve it like a distant memory, from way back when. And then I'd be like, oh yeah. And then I would lose it again. And so in this place of first compassion for myself, the story just kind of loosened and went away. And then suddenly I found myself in this place of, compassion for my friend, like that. It just kind of inserted itself, just this unbelievable compassion, because I had completely let go of my story. It was gone. And, at that time, I think that she still had her story about me. And I actually even began to see how her story was true. How her story was true. Could you imagine that? So greater compassion.
That's a lot of work.
Yes.
You did a lot of work in forgiveness. Congratulations.
I did.
That's
I
amazing
did.
Shit.
Yeah. And it gets even more intense how the universe does this incredible dance. And she was away at that time, and decided that when she came back, I would make sure that she had a huge tower of chocolates waiting for her. With
that would go a long ways, won't it?
It does. And, with a note, and the note said, it was the Ho'oponopono, prayer, if you're familiar with that, because it was what was most truthful and real for me, and that was, I'm sorry, please forgive me. I love you, and, thank you and for everything. And a little note about, waiting for you by the fire, which meant something to the both of us. Well, but before she got that, so I was already in this place of deep, deep compassion for her and just love. And, there was no more story. There was just love left. And before she even got it, her dear love, her beloved, her partner, her life partner, had a brain aneurysm. Yeah.
I'm sorry to hear that.
Yes, it was very, very sad, and he did pass. And so by the time she got the chocolate, this had happened. And the interesting, oh my goodness.
Could you tell me his name? Would that be appropriate? Or send me his name?
Yes. Yes, actually, a couple of weeks ago I did a show. If any of our listeners have been listening to the show regularly, I was dedicated the show to him, and his name is Rob, a Christian, a beautiful, beautiful being, young being. And the interesting thing about the timing of all this is that there's a lot of interesting things, but just this place of open-heartedness where, that our friendship and our compassion for each other went past any hurt and any storytelling. And, I have really been there for my dear, dear friend who has been going through a lot. And it's really funny because the love is so strong and the compassion is so, so strong. And that we never even at this point, weeks later, got a chance to talk about what happened between she and I. And I'm left in this place of just absolute pure compassion for her. And it's so beautiful. It's so beautiful. And you know what? This could have turned out very different. We could have parted and not have been there for each other.
But you made a different choice.
But we made a different choice.
Yeah.
And it's like, Neal, what's profound right now having this conversation is that I could have stuck to my story. I could have been like, yeah, my story's right, and kept making her wrong and never got to that place of compassion. Yes. Yeah. Well, I think it's changing. And, and then if I had stuck with that and then her beloved died and, I couldn't have been there for her. Which would have been just cruel and inhuman and not what I would have wanted. So it was like the compassionate choice created more compassion, if that makes any sense at all.
And that's exactly how it works. Every compassionate choice we make, any effort we make towards compassion increases the amount of compassion that we then have available to us.
Yes.
And that compassion allows a more gentle flow of the universe, not only through us, but into our lives.
Yes. Yes. Do you think, and this is my perspective, and I would love to hear yours, that whenever we withhold compassion, and normally we say withhold love, but the compassion, I believe, it's even stronger. Whenever we withhold compassion, it's really because we have forgotten our own true worth, that we have forgotten how powerful we are. A few days ago, I sent out a Divine Inspiration, which is a daily inspiration that I send out several times a week, and the divine inspiration was that it was about women, and that women can only forgive a man, or really anybody for that matter, once they find their own self-worth and they regain their own intrinsic power. That if you don't have a sense of worth and you don't have a sense of your own power, then you're left in this place where you have to defend yourself. And if you have to defend yourself, then there's no room for compassion. And so in order to get to that place of real love and compassion and forgiveness, as we've also been talking about, that the first step is really to remember who you really are, to reclaim your worth, to reclaim your sense of power that cannot be taken away. What would you say to that?
I think that's valid. My approach is just slightly different in that it's just the acceptance of self. And that leads to everything else that you're talking. And it's interesting you bring up, I think, an incredibly valid point that is equally underlooked. And
Underlooked, I like that.
We are more afraid of our power than we are of our powerlessness.
Yes.
And by urging people to engage and claim their own power, I think that's incredibly valid. We just like we're the last ones on the list for compassion, we're more afraid of our own power than we are of anything else.
Right.
We're more afraid of success than we are of failure. But failure is familiar, so we stick with the familiar. Just like powerlessness may be familiar because it was learned at a young age when we didn't have any other defense mechanisms, and it became unconscious. And yet compassion can free all these things up for us.
Yes.
If we make the effort.
Yeah. I think that the sense of powerlessness actually comes from this sense of not knowing our own worth. Children, have a 4-month-old grandson, and I can see he already has a sense of power. God knows he has a sense of power over the whole family, but he has a sense of power. And you look at children. There's exceptions if children have been abused or neglected, but for the most part, children, they come in with their sense of self-worth, their sense of power, and then as soon as they start school, and this is true for most of the schools in the United States, the public schools for sure, and most schools in the world as well, and that is that they are, immediately they learn what I call this program of worthlessness. So as soon as they start school, they learn that there's a right and the wrong, there's a good and the bad, there's a deserving, not deserving, there's a failure, there's a success, and really this is, it's either I'm deserving and not deserving, I'm worth it, or I'm not worth it. And then they spend years and years and years, their entire school years, under this program. And then even outside of that, there's religion and government and the economic systems and all these programs running that tell us that we're either worthy or not worthy. And so we spend our entire lives trying to prove our worth. And this gives us this sense of powerlessness, because if we haven't proved our worth and our worth is contingent on things that can change or being taken away from us, then there's no security. And so we actually live, for the most part, in this place of being self-defensive, that I have to defend myself to prove my worth, to have my power, so I won't disappear, I won't die, that no one can take advantage of me. And from that perspective, the compassion is not even in that realm of energy. It's somewhere way out in the distance. And I think the challenge is to find it.
It's relegated to the spiritual as opposed to an integral part of living a well-rounded and satisfying life. And it doesn't have to be. That's part of what I hope to be able to share. It doesn't have to be. It can be included. It can be offered to a child by in the way that you talk with them, in the way that you behave with them, in the way that you treat them and see them.
Yes, that's what I was going to say.
Seeing them allows that self-worth to be maintained for as long as it can. But an interesting point in the discussion of compassion as it relates to soul is the fact that souls, as we enter into the physical, we agree that between the ages of, say, 3 and 9, that we have what is, my understanding, I call a soul event. And in that event, two things can happen. Either a part of a child's soul can be sent away, and that's to protect it because the child doesn't have the defense mechanisms in order to maintain its wholeness. Or it could be over a period of time unacknowledged, not even acknowledging that it exists within them. And if you look to the shamanic cultures, that soul integration is a huge part of what they offer.
Yes.
And yet that soul integration is also something that compassion allows us to experience ourselves if you're willing to put the work in. It's energetic in nature. There are also practices involved. But what that does is it returns a sense of wholeness, which is that self-worth you're talking about.
Right. Yes.
So as I go about, sharing these views, or my understanding at least of compassion, it touches on everything. And compassion allows a person who's gone through all the events that you were describing, the socioeconomic and the cultural experiences that we all have and that we all grow up with. It allows us to keep the good and change the rest.
Yes. Yes, beautifully said. Yeah. Yes.
And as we go through, we actually learn that we can allow more and more of this energy of compassion to flow through us, which actually softens the experience we have of life.
Yes. Yes, compassion does soften everything, doesn't it?
It really does. And contrary to what at least I believed initially, it's actually a very safe way of living. You're not put at risk. You're actually protected in ways that we can't even often appreciate.
Right, because in order to be compassionate, there's this element of letting go. So as long as I'm trying to hold on to my story or my way of thinking or believing, I can't experience compassion. But when I start to let it go, then suddenly there's this compassion. They kind of like do this dance together. And I know there's a lot of people out there thinking, well, I am still, I don't quite get, like, how do I do it? How do I do it? I'm so mad at so-and-so, or this person did that to me, or how do I do it? And one of the things that I would say to that is to really to see deeper. I started off talking about if we haven't found love and love being the source of all and all actions and all people, then we haven't looked deep enough. And I think that it's important to ask to be shown a greater truth. So, one of the things that I use personally and also in my coaching practice and in my teachings is simply to ask the divine, show me. So if I don't understand something, or if I'm stuck in a way of believing that feels constricting, then I'll just say, show me a greater truth about this, and I surrender, what I think is the total truth. And immediately, almost every single time, I'm shown a greater truth. And in being shown that greater truth, every single time, Neal, I've experienced compassion. And I had one particular.
Don't you find that it happens more quickly?
Yes, instantly. Instantly.
Yes.
Instantly. And it's you get to live there after a while if that's the intention, that's the intention. So that's what I would invite, our listeners today to do. If you're in this place where you want to feel compassion, but you're stuck, just say, show me a greater truth. I was doing a session a few months ago, and beautiful woman, and was also my student, and we really just looked deeper into her family history. The whole session, we went back and we asked the universe to show us what was the truth about, her mother and her grandmother, and, beyond that even. And by understanding, the dynamics that led up to certain things that, had brought challenges to her in her life and beliefs that were disempowering to her life, and able to see all the events that led up to that, and the pain of her mother and the pain of her grandmother, etc. Understanding that brought this huge amount of compassion to both her mother and her grandmother and herself, because she had a story that didn't encompass. And that's funny that's very close to compassion. I never got that before. It didn't encompass the greater picture. And when she saw the greater picture, this huge amount of compassion grew and bloomed. And not only did it to create shifts in her life, but it actually created shifts in her mother's life too, without even a word being said. So, when we experience compassion, we're not just feeling better, and we're not just shifting who we are, our experience of life. We are actually transforming relationships and transforming the world. And so when I said earlier, yes, absolutely. Absolutely, effortlessly.
That's an expression of the unity that is life. It's one thing to have it as a concept. It's another thing to experience when, just like that, a piece of healing work that was not pleasant but undertaken.
Yes.
And the effects of that healing not only on the individual, but how that rippled out. Just like you and your friend.
Yes.
You did the process, that then rippled out.
Mm-hmm.
Your student, she did the process, that rippled out. It happens instantaneously. You can actually, as you heal yourself, however it is you choose to do that, that will ripple out to those closest to you, but it ripples out to the planet as a whole immediately.
Absolutely.
And that's just true for any choice based on harmlessness or compassion, as it is for the choices based on personal gain or the sense of being right.
Yes. Yes. Yeah, we can't help but things are constantly ripple, and the opposite's rippling out too. So when we have anger and hatred and judgment, that's rippling out too, and not just rippling out from one person to another, but literally rippling out to everyone, everywhere simultaneously, because we are really that connected. That when one cell in your body every cell in your body experiences it, and it's the same thing for everyone in this world and beyond.
It's resonant with one thing or the other. Which one? It's choice. That's the power that we have to recreate. Not only it begins with recreating ourselves. You heal and you recreate yourself, and how that can then potentially ripple out not only to the neighborhood, but the town, and then the country, and the planet.
Absolutely. Absolutely. So it really just does come back to us. So many people are like, well, how do I make, this person or that person, my daughter, my mother, my brother, my son, my teacher, whoever, more compassionate? And you can't make anybody else more compassionate. But what you can do is be the change you want to see in others. That's what you can do. And that really makes all the difference in the world, doesn't it?
Well, you have to take on that responsibility. And the belief that you're going to be rewarded because you're compassionate isn't one that's going to feed you very well.
No, because that's not real compassion, is it?
That's not compassion. You're trying to make a deal. So you do it simply because it's the right thing to do.
Right.
It's a good thing to do. It feels good. Part of the way that you can recognize compassionate instances or choices or beliefs or thoughts is the peace that goes along with it.
Yes.
It's peaceful. It's expansive. It's balanced.
Yes.
It's harmonious. And that's how you can therefore recognize choices that might be for personal gain. They're not any of those. They're constrictive. You can feel yourself pull away, and you can feel yourself pull away within your heart. Yes. Going back to one of your earlier questions, it's you can begin by healing your heart. And that opens the doorway to everything else. It opens the doorway to personal growth. It is the doorway to growth in consciousness. It is the doorway to soul. It's the doorway to guidance. It's the doorway to connection, to beingness. All of those things are potential for all human beings.
Yes, I agree. And so I know now I'm a mind reader of my listeners, so I'm sure that there's people out there listening, well, how do I heal my heart? I've been trying to heal my heart for 5, 10, 15, 20 years, and there's so many ways. And
well, the bottom line is call you or me, and we'll work on you.
Not everybody can.
You can try. You can make as many efforts as you want.
Yes.
And if they're successful, then you know how to do it. If you don't know how to do it and it's valuable to you, go to somebody who can help you, who can mentor you, even if it's for a short time.
That's true.
But don't sit there and go, how do I do it, when you're not making any effort to do it. It doesn't have to be you or me. It can be whoever they're drawn to. But it's make an effort. There are people out there. There are people close to you. There are people that are in your life or that you've heard of that can give you the benefit of their path.
Right.
So act on it.
Yeah. Yeah, the intention has to be there first. Absolutely.
Yeah. And you have to acknowledge when you don't know something. I've tried. I got here because I acknowledged I didn't know. It's interesting that you mentioned earlier, show me.
Yes.
Because just last night I did a radio show, and that was one of the key things I shared with the people during the discussion I had there. If you don't know, show me.
Yes.
If you don't know, intend to be shown.
Yes.
Simply intend to be shown the right person to work with. Intend to be shown your next step. Keep it.
I agree. Because there is a divine force constantly listening. Constantly. And all we have to do is just ask and keep our eyes, ears open. You know, and it will show up. Either the right person will show up or the right way will show up, will be shown. One of the things that I have, that I'd like to share is one of the simplest ways that's available to us now. I don't believe that this was available years ago, but I think that because things have changed so much on this planet over the last few years, that this possibility actually is very effective. That if you're looking to heal your heart and you have all this pain, and rather than, just try, go to therapy or go to coaching, whatever, and, I'm a pro coach and so are you, so I totally, am pro coaching and advocate of it, but for those who just can't reach out for whatever reason, this is what I would suggest. Just imagine whatever it is that you're having pain and pressure about, just hold that in your mind and keep your heart open and imagine the divine force, whatever you call it. I call the divine force God, whatever you call it. Imagine that the light of the divine or the light of God just shining down into your heart, and whatever that area in your heart that feels tight or constricted, just keep letting it shine on your heart. Keep letting it shine on your heart, and probably feel even more pressurized or more pain, but that's just because you're exposing yourself. The pain and pressure, I believe, comes from the fact that we're constricting and holding in, and what we're really constricting and holding ourselves in from is divine source. And so when we allow ourselves to open up to divine source and allow divine source to see us, we're going back to the seeing as we were before, to really see us, then what happens is, without any real effort or cognitive this or that on our part, that pain, that pressure, that old belief, the old wound, whatever it might be, actually starts to loosen and melt away, and we're free. And there's the freedom that you were talking about, from pressure to peace to freedom.
Yeah, and it's built layer by layer. You may have to go back and go through that experience, because that's a very valid tool. You may have to go back and go through that experience a number of times. It matters not.
Yes.
One of the things I'd give you a heads up on is the intensity that you experience your first release with may not be matched. So don't look for the intensity to be the same afterwards, but that's very valid. And additionally, it's like on my website, for those of you who want to visit, I have an entire page of free information. So you can go there. There are downloads. There are videos. There are things. That information is out there. All you've got to do is go search it. Make some effort, and you'll get there.
Yeah. And to Neal, your website is Radiant Healing. That's RADIANT Healing, HEALING.com. And it's an amazing website. There's tons and tons of information there. And also, you are in part of an authors contest now, and that. Would you say a little bit about that? We only have a couple of minutes of the show, so I'd love for you to share with our listeners how they can participate in helping you.
It's a wonderful opportunity, not only for me, but for over 3,000 authors. It's based on, we're going to have 4 rounds. It's being offered, this competition is being offered by James Twyman and Robert Evans. And the website is www.nexttopauthor.com. And what you can do is you can go there and register. It takes about 10 minutes to get a confirmation email back. You click on that, and you can go there, and you can look up authors. You can look up subjects. There's tons of talented people there. Now, my author page, my author ID is 2344 or you could look me up by Neal Ryder, Nealryder. But it's just a wonderful opportunity. These people have come together. This group of people have come together and formed their own little community. We end up voting for each other. We end up sharing support in how to get the message, not only about this process, but also about how to share your message that you have within the book that you're offering to people, how to get that out to people. So the nexttopauthor.com, I'd appreciate your vote, but I'd also suggest that you take a look at some wonderfully talented authors. I think it's a wonderful idea. Again, my author ID is 2344, so I'd appreciate your help, and I want to thank you, Nanice.
Wow. Well, Neal, I just love your work. You're absolutely amazing. And I would also like to invite you to apply to another writers conference. And this goes for any of our listeners today. As you know, that I have a publishing company myself, EchoHousePublishing.com and ECKOHousePublishing.com. And we too are doing a writers contest. So I would love for you to enter that as well. And the show is actually sponsored by Echo House. Awesome. Cool. Because, the more you get the word out there, the better. Yes, absolutely. And you have fabulous work.
Well, thank you. And please, if you get a chance, visit my website. You'll see there's newsletter. I've got radio shows. I do 2 shows a week. And actually, I'm hopeful that you're going to join me, Nanice, on one of my shows.
Yes, absolutely. I think we've got the details almost ironed out. So
yes, we do.
Yes.
So I want to let everybody know that we're going to be sharing some more time together, and I'm looking forward to that. Because I think what you're doing with your Women's Only program, and please fill in any blanks that I leave out, is one of the most wonderful things I have seen. I can't help but support that.
Thank you.
That is such a good thing.
Thank you. And what Neal's referring to, for those of you who don't know, is several months ago I started a women's only coaching program, and I have about 27 women from 8 countries in the program. Many more applied. Had tons and tons of women apply from all over the world, and these were the women that are in the program now are the most passionate, determined, and phenomenal women. And I have created this program of transformation where they have moving through the program and using their own selves and their own life to transform, and by doing that, being able to offer that to other people. And it has been absolutely astounding. We're just in the pilot program now, and the changes and transformation that has happened is so beautiful, because I really do believe that we women have the power to change the world, that life springs from woman, and women over many years have really suffered from this sense of worthlessness and powerlessness that has stopped us from taking our place, and therefore disempowering men as well. And by healing ourselves, we get to shine and allow men to shine as well. And it's just such a beautiful world.
I think the energetic balance between male and female needs to be brought into balance.
Absolutely.
This is one of the ways to do it. And
yes.
And I know you're interviewing me, but really, anybody out there who's listening, this is a woman who's walking her talk.
Mm-hmm.
So,
thank you.
Definitely take advantage. Take a look at that and see what's going on.
And you can find the information for that on my website. Yes. Yeah.
And that's also how compassion will address things, though.
Yes.
Compassion will also balance the male-female harmonies, not
Absolutely.
only on the planet, but in our life.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, it's ridiculous to see it. It truly is.
Yeah.
And
here we are at this time.
Woman.
No, absolutely not. Absolutely not. We're at this time of transformation, and how blessed are we to live at this time, because it is truly extraordinary. Thank you so much, Neal, for being on the show today. I had so much enjoyment from speaking with you and having chai with you. So thank you again.
Thank you for inviting me, Nanice. I enjoyed our chat, not only today, but a few days ago. And I look forward to our next one.
Thank you so much. You have a wonderful evening, my friend.
Thank you. Blessings, my friend.
Blessing to you. Yes. Yes, so today, what I wish for all of you is to take a deep breath. And as you do, just to imagine this beautiful light of the universe, of the divine, of compassion moving into your body and into your heart, and filling your heart and your body with divine love, with forgiveness for others, but mostly for yourself. And to let go of anything that has stopped you from loving yourself, anything that has stopped you from being your true self, anything that has stopped you from knowing and experience your true power and your true worth. You are extraordinary. As you are now, you don't need to change a thing. It's already done. You're beautiful, beautiful, extraordinary, worthwhile being. And the compassion's already inside of you. The compassion is already there for you. You simply have to remember it. Please visit me on my website at nanice.com. That's NANICE.com for tons of articles, all my show downloads. There's a book download, song downloads, and everything that you can possibly desire to assist you in remembering who you really are. And while you're there, don't forget to take the pledge. Until next week, remember, I love you. I have compassion for you. Oh, have a great week. You've been listening to Chai with Nanice. I'm Nanice.
Thank you for having Chai with Nanice. Please go to www.nanice.com for great free stuff that will empower you to live your best possible life. Free books, articles, shows, meditation audios, and so much more at nanice.com. That's NANICE.com. Nanice's books are also available in all major bookstores and Amazon. Check out The Infinite Power of You, Even Gandhi Got Hungry and Buddha Got Mad, Zest Point, Lip Prints, and many others by Nanice Ellis. To find out about one-on-one coaching and how Nanice can personally coach you to experience your best life possible, please email mybestlife@nanice.com.